Hi there, and welcome to Graeme's Guide Friday Live this Saturday, because yesterday I was just so busy I could not record my regular Friday Live. I like to record it on a Friday so that when you come in on a Saturday, if that's when you look at the discussions and have a look at your studies, I like my Friday Live to be there on Saturday morning for anyone who wants to start first thing in the weekend. So apologies for the late production of my Friday live session, but welcome to Saturday. And what are we? It's Saturday the 7th of November. So I just wanted, we'll get straight into it. I'm going to do a quick recap of unit navigation, and then we'll look at the future work skills reading 2020. And then I'll just remind you that I've sent you all an email to your Outlook email account. I sent that yesterday, and that was one of the things I was doing yesterday that kept me quite busy, sending 170 emails to all of the students in my groups, Group 11, Group 12, 13, and Group 31. Hi, everyone. Okay, so just a quick recap. Here we are in the dashboard. I'm going to go into Learning and Communicating Online. And at this point, you can click on announcements here. This is the unit homepage. You can click on these announcements to see announcements from Tanya. And you can click on, you can click through all of these to see, look through the unit. And presumably you've done that when you were doing the navigation exercise and the treasure hunt in the week 1 activity. So let's go down to the modules and have a look here at module week 1, 1.3. Actually, we'll come back here in a second. I'm just going to quickly finish recapping I want to show you how to find the group. So click here on discussions on the left to go to, sorry, this is live. I'm not going back and restarting. I've said that before. When I make a mistake, I'm just going to keep on going. So here we are in the discussions. To go to the discussion for your group, let's click on the During Careers discussion. You'll only be able to choose to go to your group. I'm going to choose Group 11 for the purposes of this. And now we're in the group page, and if you go up here to the top of the page, you'll see that it's got Group 11 discussions, and this is the home page for Group 11. If you click on the announcements here, instead of seeing Tanya's announcement, you'll see my announcements, and this is where you'll find my Friday Live Graeme's Guide videos. And this is where they'll be posted every Friday after this week. All right, so back to the discussions, and since we're here, I'll just quickly point out to you that in ELA update, a couple of things actually. In the Collaborate forum, you'll find that I've updated the Collaborate forum with the date of next week's Collaborate session. So our Collaborate sessions will be every Thursday. Next week it's on the 12th of November, and I've already uploaded the PowerPoint slides here, a PDF of the PowerPoint slides for anyone who's interested in looking at those before the live Collaborate session. And if you're not sure how to use Collaborate, I've got a link here for how to use Collaborate as well. So that's a really important thing that you need to go and have a look at this weekend. Familiarize yourself with how the Collaborate sessions work. And let's go back to the discussions. And in the ELA updates discussion, that's where I provide you with some more information. If you scroll down, you'll find I've provided an introduction to Evernote, part 1, and also during this week I uploaded an introduction to Evernote, part 2. I highly recommend using, if you're using a hard copy notebook, that's well and good. If you're interested in using an online notebook, then I highly recommend Evernote. And if you want to watch this Evernote video, it might give people who are using a hard copy notebook, it might give you some ideas for how you might like to organize your notes, whether you're using hard copy or Evernote. Alrighty, so let's get back out of here, and we'll go back to the discussions. All right, look, that's really all I wanted to show you here. I'll be unpinning the week 1 discussions, and I will be pinning the week 2 discussions on Monday. Alrighty, let's go back to the dashboard and back to the Learning and Communicating homepage, because I want to go in now and have a look at the future work skills reading. So to do that, click on modules and down here to, I know it's in 1.3. And someone was asking me about the quiz for the week 1 reading. Well, this is the quiz that they're talking about here. It's directly, the reading is here, the future work skills reading, and once you've read the future work skills reading, you can work through these questions and answers here to test your reading comprehension. Now, some people have also told me that they're finding the future work skills reading a little bit of a slog, and that's okay. This might be the first time you're actually doing academic reading, and if you're finding it a hard slog, don't think you're the only person finding it a hard slog. I remember when I first started uni, before I went to uni, a friend of mine gave me an academic report to read. I could barely get past the first paragraph. It was using all sorts of terminology I had no idea about. I think it started with something about the benefits of some sort of nomenclature. Nomenclature. I had no idea what nomenclature was. I now know that nomenclature is the science, apparently the science of how things are named. Anyway, that was another story. Look, but the point is that if you're going into these readings and you're not following if you're not familiar with the words, just look them up. I've got a dictionary open here. I use the free dictionary. I'll be using that today as we have a quick look at the reading, and I find the free dictionary is handy. I can't be bothered looking on Wikipedia. First of all, Wikipedia is not really the greatest place to look anyway, and I just want a quick dictionary definition of some of the words that I'm looking at here to become a bit more familiar with. So let's scroll through the future work skills reading, and I'll try and give we'll look at this together just very quickly. So these are the first pages. Here are the authors here, Davies, Fiddler and Gorbis, and that's how they're the authors we want to see in your text citation and reference when you reference these down the track in your assessments. And here's the contents. The contents, they provide an introduction. They provide something called a methodology, and so this report is actually based on research. And the methodology they're talking about is how they conducted their research. They may be talking about with how many people they interviewed. They might talk about the questions they asked, or they might talk about the types of industries they looked at. So the methodology is really just to give you some context for how they decided to write about these things that they're writing about. So the 6 drivers of change are one of the topics they look at. They also look at future work skills map. That's in the center. That's the 2 center pages. We'll have a look at that. And then they talk about 10 skills for the future workforce, which these 10 skills, they are based on these 6 drivers of change that they talk about. Now, in academic writing, we look at all writing with a little bit of skepticism, a little bit of critical analysis. So these 6 drivers of change that they're talking about, this is theory. We call things that are most literature we call it theory because it's a theory. It's not necessarily a certainty. So even though you're reading about these 6 drivers of change, this is a theoretical discussion. The 6 drivers of change don't necessarily really exist. It's just a way of providing some context to look at the way we view the world, and we view the world in many different ways. This report is using something they're calling the 6 drivers of change to look at what skills might be required for the future. So another way to look at theory and the difference between theory and certainty is, for example, if I go out to my garden, and on one side of the apartment, garden downstairs, there are daffodils that are growing really well. And if I go around to the other side of the apartment building where it's a shaded area, the daffodils are not growing very well. Okay, so the certainty here is that on one side of the apartment, the daffodils are not growing well. That's a certainty. On the other side of the apartment, the daffodils are growing really well. That's also a certainty. Now, here comes the theory. I think the daffodils on the shady side are not getting enough sun, and that's why the daffodils on the shady side are not growing very well. However, on the sunny side, I think the daffodils are growing really well because they're getting good sun all day. That's my theory. That's not necessarily a fact. It might be that the soil on the sunny side is better soil. Maybe the daffodils on the shady side are accidentally being poisoned. So that's the difference between a theory and certainty. A certainty is the daffodils are actually growing well on one side, but then the theory is, why are they growing well? So I'm not sure if that will help you with understanding why we talk about literature as theory. Theory are ideas and reason, hypothesis. We can come up with theories about why we think the world is the way it is, and we write about that, and that's called literature. Peer-reviewed literature is when experts write about the world that they're an expert in, and then other experts will review what they've written, and then their work is being peer-reviewed by their colleagues. That's a roundabout explanation of it all anyway. So let's just go quickly down a bit further and have a look at some more of this reading. We'll move past the introduction. I've told you that what the methodology is. That talks about how they came up with their ideas. Here are the 6 drivers of change. I'm going to work through to the driver of change that meant something to me. So you can start off by reading these little pieces here in the coloured circles. That gives you an initial indication of what each of these drivers of change is talking about. I'm just going to go straight to the one that I could relate to. Now, I know nothing about drivers of change and change theory, but I know about my area of research, and my area of research is theme parks and theme park or in themed environments. Probably not coming as a surprise to many of you, because I'm not saying that I'm not serious, but when I studied, I wanted to enjoy what I was studying. So I was studying arts and art history, and part of that led me into the history of cinema and cinema studies, and that led me into theme parks. And so anyway, my thesis was about a particular theme park ride. Go figure. Anyway, so what I bring my previous experience to me. So if I've never read this article before and I have no idea what it's talking about, what I do have is my personal experience of the world. And that's how I want to try and relate to the article. So let's go down to, where are we up to? Up to 30 minutes. This video is probably going to go for 20 minutes. Apologies now for the extra 7 minutes we're going to go for. Okay, so globally connected world. When I read this, it says here, increased global interconnectivity puts diversity and adaptability at the center of organizational operations. Well, when I see diversity here, that leaps out at me, because I'm interested in diversity and tolerance of the diverse world that we live in. And adaptability, well, I see myself as pretty flexible, so I see diversity and adaptability, and already bells are going off here for me, and I'm thinking, I feel, even though I don't really know what this is talking about, I'm starting to feel a connection with globally connected world. And globally connected world, well, I love traveling, and my work, my research into theme parks it took me to the United States, where I did my internship for 6 months, where I worked with Walt Disney World, and worked with Universal Studios, and of course these two companies have global they have parks all around the world, and so this globally connected world thing, when I'm looking at this, it's all starting to make sense for me. And then I start to read it, and it's like, okay, well, this is a little bit heavy. At the most basic level, globalization is the long-term trend toward greater exchanges and integration across geographic borders. Well, okay, well, I sort of see where that's going, but what do they mean by globalization? So I grabbed this word globalization, and I copy. Okay, I'm working in Adobe Reader, and it thinks I want to highlight this word. That's okay. Anyway, I go up here to the free dictionary. Can I paste that in there? No. It's pasted a whole lot of other stuff in there. Okay, so global, I'm going to do the American spelling. And here I can read a little bit about what globalization is. And, since I'm in Adobe, I'm just going to copy and paste these definitions here. I'm going to take them in here, and over here on where I've started putting a comment, I'm just going to post this in. And so now I've got a note here in the Adobe document that it sort of gives me an idea of what globalization is. And it says here, the process of enabling financial and investment markets to operate internationally, largely as a deregulation of improved communication. So, I don't understand what globalization is, but I've got an idea from looking up the definition of globalization. So let's move on a little bit here. In our highly globally connected and independent world, the United States and Europe no longer hold a monopoly on job creation, innovation, and political power. So this is saying that previously the United States and Europe did hold a monopoly on job creation and innovation and political power. And from my art history and cinema history studies, I know that cinema came about at around the turn of the 19th century, around the 1900s. And this is talking about the Industrial Revolution, which, sort of started in the 1700s and went through the 1800s, but was peaking around the 1900s. And it was peaking in Europe and in the United States. And so that's why it's saying here that the United States and Europe, held a monopoly on job creation and innovation. But that's no longer the case. This Future Work Skills report is saying that now job creation and innovation and political power is moving to different parts of the world. And it goes on to talk here about developing countries like India and China. Well, I don't know if China is developing. We used to think that China was a third world country. Well, we don't think China is a third world country anymore, nor India. These countries, India and China, are very well developed. And so there's a lot of job creation and innovation going on in China and India. And also we know that China's political power is also, it's not backward in coming forward. It's on the international stage along with the United States and Europe. So we sort of start to get a bit of more of an idea of what it's talking about, and you can start to pull this apart. When you find something that you feel connected to, try and sort of look at it and pull it apart. Don't feel bad that you don't understand necessarily at first glance what you're looking at, because you're not an expert in this area. But try and bring some of your personal experience to it. I mean, you'll know just from going to the shops that, I'm thinking of peanut butter, Kraft peanut butter. Now it's Bega peanut butter. Well, that happened as a result of globalization. The name change from Kraft peanut butter to Bega peanut butter. That's another story. I'm not going to go into that. Anyway, look, you bring your own experiences to what you're reading, and don't feel bad that you don't understand. You don't need to be an expert in this. We're just teaching you some academic skills. Over the next years of your degree, you are working toward becoming an expert, but you're not one now in your first teaching period. academic study, but you're getting there. You're making a start, which is great. Okay, let's just go down quickly because I know it's 20 minutes already. Let's go from globally connected world. Let's go to the center pages of this report, where it talks about the future skills that will be required in a globally connected world. Here's globally connected world, and it's looking at cross-cultural competency and virtual collaboration. This is right down my alley. Cross-cultural collaboration. I lived in China for a while. I loved it. I lived in China for 3 years in the 1990s. And when I came back to Australia from China, my abilities and my smarts, I was much better at understanding about Asian cultures after having lived in China for a while, and and even when I was growing up, where I grew up, we had a lot of European people living where I lived, and at that time this was new, and now I live in Melbourne, where we have all sorts of food, all sorts of people. There's no need for me to travel the world that I wanted to escape from Australia before, but now the world is coming to us. So this cross-cultural competency is something that I feel that I'm building up, and if that's a skill that's required for the future, I'm well on board already, because that's very cool. Again, virtual collaboration is another skill that I feel very comfortable with. Virtual collaboration is something essential these days, especially if you're doing online study. Virtual collaboration is something we're going to talk a lot about over the course of this unit. So these are two things that I really felt connected to me. Once you've worked out which of these that you feel connected to, in this case you can move on to the next part of the article, where it talks about this in more detail, and need to scroll further down. Here's cross-cultural competency number 4, and down here, I think it's the last one, virtual collaboration is down here at number 10. Okay, look, that's way too much for me. I hope that's helped you. For those people who are feeling a bit intimidated by the essential reading for this week, week 1, I hope that's helped you sort of look at it and become a bit more open to it. Check your Outlook email. I sent every student, 170 of you, email yesterday. Some of you, I sent you an email because I haven't seen you in the weekly discussions. I'm not trying to be critical, but I'm just trying to encourage you that if you're finding that if you're getting behind now, it might be a sign that you need to pick up. However, you might have planned just to come and do your work this weekend, and so I might be a little bit ahead of the game. So don't feel that I'm coming down on anybody by pointing out that you haven't been present in the discussion boards already this week. I'm just trying to keep in touch. And I hope we can keep in touch with each other over the course of the next 12 or 13 weeks, if you count the consolidation week. And let's work together and try and work out how we can best and most successfully complete this unit. We want everyone getting over the line if we can. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. From me, for now, it's bye for now. If I can find out how to turn the button off. Oh, we're back at this camera. Okay. I probably was not looking at the right camera then. I'm still trying to work out how to turn it off. This button down here. Bye for now.